The 80s is remembered by many music fans as a golden era. For example, pop never sounded more fun, and heavy metal was gaining a mainstream audience. Alternative rock and punk was ruling the underground, and hip-hop was discovering its voice. Despite these differences in genre and style, a unifying attitude of the artists of the 80s was a desire to push the boundaries. For example, heavy metal began to embrace more violent and satanic influences, and pop was becoming much more risque. This acceptance of taboo subjects ruffled the feathers of a group of politicians' wives, who formed a group known as the Parents Music Resource Center, or the PMRC. The PMRC launched a movement that would eventually result in the adoption of parental advisory labels and change the face of music. This is the PMRC behind the music.
We've known each other for so long.
The PMRC's efforts to clean up popular music began in 1985, when Tipper Gore, wife of future Vice President Al Gore, caught her 11-year-old daughter listening to Prince's Darling Nikki, which was released on his 1984 album, Purple Rain.
I knew a girl named Nikki, I guess you could say she was a sex fiend. I met her in a hotel lobby, masturbating with a magazine. She said, how'd you like to waste some time? And I could not resist when I saw little Nikki grind.
The song's references to sex and masturbation shocked Mrs. Gore, who was unaware of the song's content at the time of purchase. She felt that music was becoming too obscene for young children and felt a duty to arm the parents of America. She, along with 3 other notable Washington wives, formed the PMRC. Their goal was to get the government to adopt labels that said if an album was explicit.
Look, I am talking about pervasive messages that are available to kids of any age that are explicit and violent, and parents have a right to know that. Parents in this country right now aren't tuned in. They're not aware of what their kids are seeing on television and listening to, and they really need to so that they can nurture their child and protect their child. It's education for parents. The
PMRC was not the first instance of public outrage over music.
We urge you to take your Beatle records, pictures, and souvenirs to the pickup points about to be named, and on the night of the Beatles' appearance in Memphis, August 19th, they will be destroyed in a huge public bonfire at a place to be named soon.
Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Nobody told me there'd be days like these.
But the PMRC was different than most other protest groups. The organization's ties to lawmakers actually resulted in a Senate hearing in September of 1985. In 1985, the organization published a list of songs they felt encapsulated the offensive nature of pop music. The list was nicknamed the Filthy 15, and artists on the list included the aforementioned Prince with the song Darling Nikki, as well as other pop artists like Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, and Sheena Easton. However, the bulk of the list was filled with rock and heavy metal bands such as Def Leppard, AC/DC, Venom, and Twisted Sister.
This is our life. This is our song.
On September 19, 1985, the Senate held a hearing to discuss what they called porn rock. They called upon Frank Zappa, John Denver, and Dee Snider of Twisted Sister to testify before the council on behalf of all of music.
Somebody approached our office that they want, the Senate committee is having a hearing on censorship with the PMRC and wanted to know if I would come and speak. Now my view of it, when I heard it, was they want me to carry the flag into battle. Hell yeah. Braveheart, baby. Braveheart wasn't even out, but that sort of mentality. Give me the fucking flag, man. Let's go. I knew that they were, like everybody else, grossly underestimating me. I knew that they viewed me as just another dunderheaded rocker, and they would bring me in, make me look like a fool, and I would help their cause. They did not know that I could construct a sentence and speak English fluently. And I'm there in my cut-off denim, my skin-tight jeans, my snakeskin boots, and a little bit of eye makeup left underneath, and my big hair. And I ain't getting dressed up for nobody. I'm a dirtbag, and I'm proud. And I'm playing these people like, mentally I'm setting these guys up for the kill. I have got my speech in my back pocket, which I have worked on for a few weeks and honed and refined till it's a frickin' nuclear weapon. Folded up, like a gazillion times, like a bad kid bringing his homework to school, you know, and I open it up and I'm flattening it out on the table, really deliberate, and they're going, oh man, this is a lamb being brought to the slaughter. And I start reading.
Since I seem to be the only person addressing this committee today who has been a direct target of accusations from the presumably responsible PMRC, I would like to use this occasion to speak on a more personal note and show just how unfair the whole concept of lyrical interpretation and judgment can be, and how many times this can amount to little more than character assassination.
And I am just tearing apart everything that they've accused me of, disproving beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything they've accused me of has been wrong, false, and they are scrambling. They were saying that Under the Blade was about sadomasochism and bondage. It was about my guitar player's throat operation.
It's not really a wild leap of the imagination to jump to the conclusion that that's about something other than surgery or hospitals, neither of which are mentioned in the song.
No, it's not a wild jump, and I think what I said in one part was that songs allow a person to put their own imagination, experiences, and dreams into the lyrics. People can interpret it many ways. Ms. Gore was looking for sadomasochism and bondage, and she found it. Someone looking for surgical references would have found it as well.
The PMRC proposal is an ill-conceived piece of nonsense which fails to deliver any real benefits to children, infringes the civil liberties of people who are not children, and promises to keep the courts busy for years dealing with the interpretational and enforcemental problems inherent in the proposal's design. It is my understanding that, in law, First Amendment issues are decided with a preference for the least restrictive alternative. In this context, the PMRC demands are the equivalent of treating dandruff by decapitation.
Mr. Chairman, this would approach censorship. May I be very clear that I'm strongly opposed to censorship of any kind in our society or anywhere else in the world. I've had in my experience 2 encounters with a sort of censorship. My song Rocky Mountain High was banned from many radio stations as a drug-related song. This was obviously done by people who'd never seen or been to the Rocky Mountains and also had never experienced the elation, the celebration of life, or the joy in living that one feels when he observes something as wondrous as the Perseid meteor shower.
Very little would directly result from the Senate hearing. However, in the following years, the Recording Industry Association of America would implement advisory labels of explicit content. Walmart ceased the distribution of albums with these labels. This slow rollout would eventually result in a total mandate across all albums in the summer of 1990.
Who are looking for help in monitoring the music their youngsters listen to now have assistance. Beginning in July, this label, which you're about to see, Parental Advisory, Explicit Lyrics, will appear on albums whose songs explicitly deal with sex, violence, suicide, and substance abuse. The label will appear on the lower right-hand corner at the discretion of record companies and individual artists. The Recording Industry Association, representing 90% of all records sold in the U.S., backs the label.
The PMRC's goal was to censor music whether or not they wanted to admit it, and the organization's campaign would result in parental advisory labels being adopted across the music industry. Today, the labels are still found on album covers, but they carry much less weight with the decline in physical music sales and the advent of streaming services like Spotify.
I must add too, the censorship issue is very important to saying something isn't censorship, unfortunately, doesn't make it not censorship. In the same way that if you run somebody over in your car, it doesn't cease to be vehicular homicide because you didn't mean to. Unfortunately, and I think you're a very charming and very lovely lady, and I believe you're very well-intentioned, but I think that what you're doing is potentially very, very dangerous. I don't think anybody is enough of a surgeon that they can precisely cut off that which is dangerous to society and protect everything that potentially makes society grow.
I think you're very glib, and I think you're...
Today, the labels are still in effect, but artists face much less scrutiny for having the labels. Thanks to the internet, parents are more likely to search an artist themselves and make their own judgment on the content, which is what many musicians like Frank Zappa proposed. The PMRC took a stand against what they saw as the destruction of youth culture, but in return, artists took a stand against censorship and artistic suppression. Without their efforts, music would look very different today.